I think we all know who Syracuse football's MVP has been at the midway point of the season.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we were at the midway point of the 2024 season, so let's hand out some hardware. We're going over Syracuse football's MVP through 6 games, their best defensive player, and their best freshman, all on today's podcast. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, so we're 6 games into the season. That means we are at the halfway point of the regular season for Syracuse football. Hopefully it is not the halfway point overall for this team, because I'd imagine that Syracuse is going to be playing at least 13 games this year, because they're going to make a bowl game in all likelihood, and then hopefully maybe there's a little bit more beyond the bowl game. But anyway, at the midway point right now, Syracuse football is sitting in a good spot. They're 5-1, 2-1 in the ACC. They're on a bye week right now, same as their next opponent in Pitt, who's on a bye as well. A ranked opponent, that is their next matchup, Thursday night at 7:30 at Pitt. It should be a fun one, and actually I should rephrase that. Pitt is 6-0 right now, so hopefully they can have their first loss of the season. But anyways, let's really get into the meat and potatoes of this show, which is handing out some hardware. It's all good hardware. Team MVP, best defender, best freshman, right? Kept it nice and simple. And I think we all know who the MVP has been for Syracuse football at the halfway point of the year. I think we all know it, right? It's Kyle McCord. Period. Stop. I think we can end the podcast now, right? No, just kidding. I'm not going to end the podcast now, but he is the team's heart and soul. He is the team's MVP. And I want to preface this by saying, look, yes, it's easy to always give a quarterback the MVP, right? You think about the NFL. The last non-quarterback to win the MVP award overall for the league was Adrian Peterson in 2012 when he ran for 2,000 yards in a single season. Even Derrick Henry has run for 2,000 yards since, and he was third in MVP voting the year he ran for 2,000 yards. But besides that, it's easy to give a quarterback an MVP, but Kyle McCord in this case has truly earned it. He is this team's best player. He is this team's heart and soul. And yesterday on the podcast, we talked about how he has been one of the more surprising parts of Syracuse football season. In fact, he won that Poll Friday poll. Most of you guys believe that he is the most surprising. The fact that he is this good, this talented, people didn't see coming. Now, I disagreed with that. I thought Trevor Pena was a little bit more of a surprise, but still, I did not necessarily see this coming from Kyle McCord this season. Before the year, I had him as the third best player on the team overall. Like overall, top to bottom, 1 through 90, I think it is. He was the third best player overall on the roster behind Arondé Gadsden and Fadil Diggs. And I thought it was a fair ranking for Kyle McCord. I mean, top 3 of the team is still pretty good, but not anymore. He is the best player on Syracuse football. And honestly, it might not be particularly close. That's a good thing, by the way. It's a good thing. He is incredibly, incredibly talented. And to put it further into perspective behind Kyle McCord's amazing start, he's basically on pace to shatter every Syracuse football single season passing record. Every single one, basically. All right. Let's take a look at Kyle McCord's numbers through 6 games. 2,160 yards, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 65.6% completion rate. So he's on pace for over 4,000 passing yards, 38 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, which is a high number of interceptions, but he's throwing the ball more than any other player in the country on average. So it makes sense. It's not like his interception rate is that high. It's about 2.5%. It's not that bad. And a high completion rate, I think all time right now, the last I checked, if it were to end at 65.6%, it would be the second highest in a single season for Syracuse football. Here are the records, by the way. Here are the overall records and why Kyle McCord is basically on pace to shatter them, okay? Ryan Nassib in 2012, okay? That's probably the most prolific passing season since Donovan McNabb, honestly. Ryan Nassib in 2012 had 3,749 yards. That is the Syracuse single season passing record right now. I just told you, McCord is well on pace to go over 4,000. Well on pace to go over 4,000, not even including a potential 13th game in the bowl game and hopefully even more like an ACC championship game maybe. I don't know, just saying. Single season touchdowns. Ryan Nassib again, 2012 with 26 of them. That's the record. McCord is on pace for almost 40, right? 300-yard games. I don't know who has the record for most in a single season, but I do know that the program record is 6. And Kyle McCord has thrown for 300 yards in every game this year. So the next time he throws for 300 yards in a game, hopefully he does, will break the single season Syracuse record for most 300-yard games in a year. All right. And then also total completions. Ryan Nassib in 2012 has that one as well with 294. And Kyle McCord is on pace for 370. So he's not on pace to just break them. He's on pace to shatter them. Ryan Nassib, 26 touchdowns is like nothing compared to what Kyle McCord is on pace to do, which is nearly 40. That is why Kyle McCord is the MVP of this team. He's having the most prolific passing season in Syracuse history. And it's not even being hyperbolic. He is going to shatter these records, or at least hopefully he goes on to shatter these records like he's on pace to do. And I've gone over on prior podcasts what has made him so effective through 6 games, but I'll summarize it for you guys in case you might have missed it. There are 3 things that really make Kyle McCord successful because he's not someone who is going to scramble around and run around all the time. Like he's athletic enough, but you don't think of him like a Cam Newton, right? You don't think he's going to be a Josh Allen, even though he did have that one run against Stanford where he helicoptered his way into the end zone. But here's what makes him effective, okay? Number 1, it's seeing the play at the line of scrimmage. Okay, he'll go up to the line, and it's like he already knows where he's going to go with the football. Now, at times that can get you in trouble because if you see something and then the defense is disguising it and they throw you something else, well, then that could lead to an interception. But for the most part, Kyle McCord has done an excellent job of recognizing what the defense is showing at the line of scrimmage, and it boils down to anticipation, and it leads into the 3rd key, but I'll get to that one in a second. Number 2 is good pocket awareness, okay? Rarely have I ever seen him in the midway point of the year not have a general feel for the rush. If there's a rush coming, Kyle McCord is not blindsided by it typically, okay? Most of the time he sees if a sack is coming. He knows to protect the football. I think you get the idea. Good pocket awareness from Kyle McCord. And number 3, and it stems off point number 1, which is anticipation at the line of scrimmage, but this key coming up, number 3, is the most important key, maybe for any quarterback, and that is getting rid of the ball on time. He gets rid of the football when he has to get rid of the football. He's very predictable, but in a good way. In a good way, Kyle McCord is very predictable. I'm going to tell you why, okay? Because he'll get the ball 1-2 seconds. If that ball is not out of his hands, he's already rolling outside of the pocket trying to extend the play. He does not want to stay in that pocket for too long. Yes, he's a pocket passer, but he also has the awareness that you can't sit back there all day. You can't. I don't care if you got the Great Wall of Dallas blocking for you. If you sit in the pocket for 3, 4, 5 seconds, you're going to get sacked. But Kyle McCord does an excellent job of getting rid of the ball quickly, and he does an excellent job of, when it's not there, of rolling outside of the pocket trying to extend the play. And this really helps the offensive line because they don't have to block for that long. If the ball's coming out quickly, they only have to block for a couple seconds, and the play's over. Play's done for them. And that's a huge credit to Kyle McCord. What else can I say about him? I mean, he's proved a lot of doubters wrong. I mean, at Ohio State, he was good. A lot of people thought maybe it was because of the weapons around him. He had 3 weapons around him. It's Ohio State. And not to downplay Syracuse's supporting cast, because they have a very good supporting cast. This team's got a lot of weapons too. But he's proving it wrong. That it wasn't just the weapons of Ohio State. This guy is actually really good. He's on pace to be all ACC, perhaps an All-American. He's even getting some Heisman Trophy voting love right now. He's getting some love for the award. I'll admit to you, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to win it with Travis Hunter and Ashton Gianti being in this world right now. They're just head and shoulders above everyone else. But Kyle's having a great year, and it's awesome as a Syracuse fan that you have Kyle McCord, because you feel like going into a game that they're always going to have a chance. You genuinely feel like in every game that they've played in so far that either Syracuse should win the game or that they have a chance to win. When they went up on the road against UNLV, against a ranked opponent, they're about a touchdown underdog in that one. You felt that Syracuse could win. I felt Syracuse could win, and it was a large part because they have Kyle McCord under center. And chances are he's better than your guy under center. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, if not the entire country. So Kyle McCord is Syracuse's MVP through 6 games of the season, and let's hope it can continue going forward. Now, coming up, talked about offense because overall team MVP went to Kyle McCord, but let's shift gears to defense and the defensive player of the year through 6 games of the season. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works best for you. And start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Who has been the defensive player of the year for Syracuse football through 6 games? In my opinion, it is Fadil Diggs, the 4-star Texas A&M transfer, has been the best defender for Syracuse football through 6 games. And look, it's not all that surprising because when Syracuse football got him in the transfer portal, he was perceived to be Syracuse's best defensive lineman on the roster for 2024 and overall as one of their top defensive players and roster players, okay? In the preseason, I thought Fadil Diggs was the second best player on Syracuse football, even ahead of Kyle McCord. Now, Fadil Diggs is the defensive player of the year for Syracuse, but he's moving down the list solely because Kyle McCord has been incredible, okay? Kyle McCord 1, I would say that him and Oronde Gadsden are 2, 3, and we'll see if Marlowe Wax when he gets healthy. But regardless, Fadil Diggs through 6 games has been terrific for Syracuse football. Everything that we could have hoped for when we got this guy in the transfer portal. So far, he's got 4 sacks. He's got 8 tackles for loss, and both of those lead Syracuse. Okay, he leads with 4 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. He has been very, very good for Syracuse football. It's not all that surprising. Once again, 4-star transfer from Texas A&M. I mean, this was a big-time get for Syracuse football. One of the biggest ones, one of the biggest fish that Fran Brown got in the transfer portal this offseason. But what I have been pleasantly surprised about has been Fadil Diggs' versatility that he has shown at the midway point of the season. Because look, Syracuse football was dealt a pretty brutal injury in the first game of the season to Marlowe Wax. Marlowe Wax, for those that may not know, don't follow the team too closely, he is an all-conference linebacker. This is arguably the best defender on Syracuse football, even with Fadil Diggs there. He is the one who has the headset in his helmet, so he's the one who's supposed to call the plays to the defense. Think of him as almost like the quarterback of the defense, okay? He goes down in week 1, and hopefully he comes back for the Pitt game on Thursday, but Syracuse hasn't seen him since the third quarter against Ohio in the season opener. What has that led to? Well, Fadil Diggs has had to basically play 2 positions since the second half against Ohio. He's had to play a little bit of linebacker. He's had to play a little bit of defensive line, and it's really helped Syracuse not necessarily be an elite defense, okay? They're not an elite defense, but they have been able to survive the Marlowe Wax injury so far, in large part because Fadil Diggs is playing both defensive line and he is playing linebacker. And in most years for Syracuse football, I cannot understate this enough. In most years, when a star player for the Orange goes down with an injury, very rarely have they really been able to replace him. Forget replacing him for a second. Oftentimes, they can't even really survive without him. I mean, let's shift to the offensive side of the ball real quick. We remember what happened with Oronde Gadsden last year when he was out for the season after suffering an injury against Western Michigan in the second game of the year. Granted, Syracuse won the Western Michigan game, and then they won 2 straight games after that. But then they snowballed for the rest of the year. You think Oronde Gadsden could have turned around 1 or 2 more of those games? I think so. Garrett Schrader goes down with an injury, had a little bit of a shoulder problem last year. Couldn't survive it. And I know that's quarterback, but you get the idea. In normal years for Syracuse football, when a star player goes down with an injury, and it happens to pretty much every team, someone's going to get hurt. It's football. They can't necessarily survive it, but Fadil Diggs has been one of the main reasons why they have been able to survive it with his play along the defensive line and as a linebacker with Marlowe Wax out. Now, that being said, if and when Marlowe Wax returns, and hopefully it is against Pitt on Thursday, I think you're going to see an even better Fadil Diggs in the second half of the year because he's not going to have to play a lot of linebacker. Fadil Diggs is going to be able to pin his ears back and go rush the passer. And he's got 4 sacks this season through 6 games. That's a pace for 8 sacks in the regular season. That would break his career high. His career high is only 4.5. But I wouldn't be surprised with Marlowe Wax hopefully returning from injury. Fadil Diggs maybe averages a sack a game in the second half of the year and finishes with 10 overall. I would not be surprised if he did that because, again, Marlowe Wax is going to return. He's going to be patrolling the middle of the field. He's going to be playing linebacker. Him, Derek McDonald, and Justin Barron. Fadil Diggs can rush the passer, play a little bit more freely. He's not going to be asked to do everything for Syracuse in their front 7 anymore when Marlowe Wax returns. So, best defender through 6 games of this season has been Fadil Diggs, in my opinion. If you think it's someone else or you agree with me, leave a comment in the comment section below your best defender for Syracuse football through 6 games of this season. So we've gone over the team MVP. We've gone over the best defender for Syracuse football. Now coming up, let's go over the best freshman for Syracuse football at the midway point of the year. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And Syracuse football right now is at 5-1, 2-1 in the ACC. The Orange's odds of winning the conference outright is at plus 4,000 right now. And if you think that Syracuse football can run the table and win the conference, check it out on FanDuel. Or if you would like to play it a little bit safer, I understand, just bet against the New York Jets. I'm a New York Jets fan. I'm telling you, we can't have nice things. Just bet against the Jets. They'll find a way to screw it up. You should be able to make a decent living off betting against the Jets, all right? But anyways, that's FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com. The best freshman for Syracuse football at the midway point of the season has been Murad Watson, the defensive lineman, number 88 for Syracuse football. And coming into the year, Murad Watson was a consensus 3-star recruit out of New Jersey in the 2024 recruiting class. Why is that important? Well, that means that Murad Watson isn't just a freshman. He's a true freshman, okay? There are plenty of redshirt freshmen, right? But Murad Watson is a true freshman, and 3-star true freshmen, guys, they don't typically have huge impacts in their first year. Oftentimes, they'll redshirt that year. Think about even the 4-stars on this team that are redshirting. Like Jamie Tremble is redshirting. Emmanuel Ross is probably going to have a redshirt year, right? Those are 4-star recruits. King Joseph Edwards, we've seen him a little bit at times in this season, but it could be a redshirt year for him, and he's a 4-star guy. Marcellus Barnes. It's hard, even for 4-stars, to get on the field as true freshmen. But Murad Watson, as a 3-star true freshman, has been a pleasant surprise for Syracuse football at the midway point of the year. And he is the best freshman on Syracuse's roster, at least for right now. Doesn't mean that going forward he'll remain the best, although it wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily. But at least for right now, he has been the best freshman. 24/7 Sports named Murad Watson to their midseason freshman All-American team, which is a huge honor, by the way, and the only Syracuse freshman that made that list. Murad Watson, a midseason freshman All-American, according to 24/7 Sports. Also, according to 24/7 Sports, Watson has played the most snaps at defensive tackle than any other freshman in the country. So he has not only been good, he's playing a lot compared to a lot of other true freshmen in the country. Actually, not even true freshmen, just any freshman in general, right? As far as where he grades out on the team, it's very good, especially for, again, we're talking about a freshman here. We're talking about a true freshman. Pro Football Focus, among all the Syracuse players that have played in 6 games this season, all right? So they've played in every game. Murad Watson is 7th overall on the team in Pro Football Focus with his grade. 7th. Does that mean he's been the 7th best player? Well, you tell me. He's grading out pretty highly. And it really does help Syracuse football that Murad Watson has been very effective through 6 games this year because, look, he's going to have to continue to grow up fast. He's going to have to continue to grow up fast for a couple of reasons. Number one, injuries. Dion Wilson, Kevin Jobity, likely out for the season, right? Those guys are done. They're not playing anymore. Those were 2 guys you were counting on in the beginning of the year to be your top defensive linemen. Not anymore. They're done. They're hurt. It sucks, but that's how it works in football. Guys get injured. So Murad Watson, going to have to step up, right? We know that. He's going to have to step up, but also because this is not a rebuilding year. This is not a rebuilding Syracuse football team. I'm not going to get into the long-term future of Syracuse football, but I think we all know the stakes of this season. The schedule is relatively light compared to next year. Kyle McCord is out of years of eligibility, so even if he wanted to come back, he can't come back, all right? He'll be in the NFL. That's good for him, but he can't come back. You get the point. But this team can win right now. It's different for a true freshman if they were playing. It's easy to say to a true freshman, oh, you got to step up now because of injuries and everything like that. But the team is 2-4. They have no chance this season. No. Syracuse football's 5-1. They have a chance. They beat Pitt on Thursday. They're 6-1 maybe. And who knows? Maybe they can run the table. Maybe they can do it, right? So that's added pressure on Murad Watson to step up. It's not just the injuries. It's the fact that Syracuse is actually good this year, and they need him to be good. And thankfully, he has been good through 6 games this season. And overall, if you look on that defensive line, when Marlowe Wax returns, it should get better because Fadil Diggs will be back on the defensive line for the most part. And with extra attention on Fadil Diggs, hopefully that frees up Murad Watson in the middle just a little bit more. So overall, Murad Watson is the best freshman on the team for right now. And thank goodness, because they need him on that defensive line going forward, especially with all the high-octane passing attacks that are coming up. We know Pitt on Thursday can throw the ball. We know that with E.I. Holstein. We know that with Miami and Cam Ward. We know they can throw the football, right? There's other teams on the schedule that can throw it a little bit as well. They need that defensive line. And with Murad Watson in the lineup as the best freshman, hopefully they can, get some pressure on the quarterback, disrupt run games, and win some ball games, right? Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Dono and Kenta Gibbs, they keep it real, and they bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. They're going to tell you the truth, and you can find, or at least their truth, right? You can find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, coming up on this particular podcast, Locked On Syracuse, tomorrow there will be another full episode. I can't decide, though, if it's going to be a football episode, a basketball episode, or perhaps both. And the reason why it might be basketball or it might even be both, or you get the point, is because there's been a lot going on, or at least some positive news in the recruiting front for Syracuse football. There's been or basketball, I should say. There's been some rumors that a 5-star in 2026, Alex Constanza, he might reclassify, and the Orange might be in the running for him for class of 2025, maybe. So, maybe we address that on tomorrow's podcast. I'm still making that decision up. Also, we have to get ready for Pitt, because Pitt is on Thursday. It's a short week for even the podcast. Short week podcast too, right? So got to make sure that we're already covering Pitt as well for the Syracuse football team. So who knows? Could be a football, could be a basketball, could be a both episode tomorrow, but there will be a full podcast tomorrow, all right? As far as this one is concerned, we went over the team MVP, Kyle McCord, best defensive player in Fadil Diggs, best freshman in Murad Watson. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And everyone, take care.